Morning, good day to you as usual, wherever and whenever you listen to this series of knowledge seekers from Keshe Foundation Space Institute. We welcome you back, and we welcome you dearly because in the past few days and past few weeks and past few months, humanity has come to face something impressive, something which they have created names for it, and it's getting more and more complicated. The structures the world of science of today is dealing with, they have been given names of all sorts, as we have seen. One is called 3I, and something else is called the Swan, because it was discovered by one of the systems, which is called the Swan, and it's called the R2. And we see is puzzling the world of science. NASA, the whole scientific world, is scratching their head. This is something new they never seen. They are not astronauts. They are not meteorites. They don't behave like one. They create direction of flight material in the front, the light in the front and the back. And we hear that there is a 17-minute gap between the pulses and all sorts of information is coming out. That is this system, intelligence system. Are these preset to be here? Initially was one, then became two, and now according to some data is a fleet of them. And interesting enough, the split now, the talk is that they're both heading to the back of the sun, and then we might see them coming out after a long time, or we not see them. We might do this, and one has already split. And we hear all sorts of things about this. I dedicate this stage of today to this subject because when I've been following this for the past few weeks and waiting for it to become actually exciting and finding solution answers. If you as knowledge seekers go back over the teachings of past few years, every piece of what they're talking is strange is in teaching. Everything that we hear about this structure or these structures, it's been in teaching, in different conferences and different teachings and in public teachings, they've been referred to, they've been shown. And it's interesting that what you as knowledge seekers know through your knowledge is an amazing puzzle to the world of scientists of today. When I go through and I ask different knowledge seekers who have done transcription or have access to transcriptions to look into, find things, different one of them has come up with different pieces of information, which teaching, which section, which teaching, what time, when it speaks about UFO, when it speaks about the light and the rest of it. And if you go back to the even last 2 years, even go back to last May in Beijing, go back to what we showed was done with the Chinese scientists, and we showed you what we call the data from analysis from laboratories, and then there are the videos which has been recorded. It gives you all the information. You, as knowledge seekers, are more advanced than the NASA, the European Space Agencies, the Chinese, and the rest. But the problem is, why I have brought this, is that these objects are what you call UFOs. It's the first time we publicly are encountering them. It's the first time we have tools to observe them, and they travel at high speeds that we all know. When you have dynamic systems like what we produce is there, But again, comes to one point. They talk about object we see traveling at so many thousand kilometers per second, which is beyond our process. But it's exactly how it should. This is what we said it takes a minute or two to the moon and back. Now they say this is what's going on. They explain scientists trying to find a way to communicate. Communicating with these structures need a way they can communicate, they can download, they can see everything. We have seen communication defaults on some systems where these systems are interacting, which means that upper atmosphere, very high level satellites are getting interfered with. Some military systems are getting interfered with and they don't know why. You all, as knowledge seekers, this is because these systems create magnetic fields. So jamming or covering is one of them. This is the way that the drone gets captured. This is how we fly without detection. This is how the lights are created. One of the biggest puzzling points with one of these systems is that it's in greenish color. And the other one has a huge amount of CO2 exhaust in the back of it, which is very unusual in such amount, and the rest of it. But to your knowledge, because you know exactly why. You know exactly why the color is green. You know exactly why it's traveling at high speed, which is why there's no control. And step by step, when we go through this process of teaching of past 10 years, 20 years, everything we said is there. So our knowledge for past 20 years now is the puzzle of the UFOs and other things which they have to find out. Are the creatures with these systems? How come they mutate? How come in the structures we see amino acids very much to us? How come they create geometric dimensions and information? If you go back step by step into the teaching, for example, the structure of, we don't see what we call a bright light in the front, but we see a green light. The exhaust is like being at the front and the back, as always explained. In the aircraft, you see the exhaust at the rear. And with the UFOs, you see the light and then what you call interaction interfaces at the front, because you create a magnetic field front to eliminate, to create a dynamic situation like the atmosphere to burn anything. You always drive into the vacuum of the system. The whole structure, now what it is puzzle, is something which we have taught. Why is this structure moving towards the sun the way it does? And is slowing down, it's changing direction, because in fact, if you look at this structure, it's very interesting. What the structure has in its embedded system is very simple. This system has, and we see it in the structure in a very, very simple way. A system has a dynamic, magnetic, gravitational system. Is creating light, is creating a structure, dynamic, very much like this. It is a version of not very advanced system, but it's a version of intelligent system, where in fact the system sits mainly in this structure, and we don't see the physical UFO shape, but we see like a rock material, which is It's, in a way, one of the primitive systems of the space travel. But on the other hand, it's one of the most useful ways to travel. The reason you see this, which man has never seen before, than the UFOs, which you see shining on top of the Earth, on the Earth atmosphere, is that the shiny disks are signature of a clean environment. Earth atmosphere, we don't have rocks, we don't have things in it. In the depths of the universe, most of the UFOs fly with this structure like stones on them, or like we see a lot of dentation on them. They look like meteorites, which has been hit, because this structure gives them protection. It's full of rocks. If anything happens in the dimension of their magnetic field, like Earth, like the moon, hits this material, doesn't hit the surface underneath. Inside sits highly intelligent system. Could be as many as 10,000, 20,000 living things in these systems, especially the big one. One has entered in one direction and one has, but both are going to meet in one position. Most probably, we will encounter them on Earth. That's for sure. This thing has not happened just for the sake of doing it. And when you look at this structure of the what we call creation of structure like this, dented or whatever, you all have seen. Now I give you part of an insight what you've seen. It brings a lot of science to. Go back to the teaching, or go back to the structure of what we showed. I'm trying to get rid of this thing. How to get rid of this board on mine? Stop sharing. I gotta come back in again. Sorry. I deleted this. Every day they change this thing. As I said, let me learn what this thing is doing with us. Okay. As I said, we see UFO center. In the universe, when you go across galaxies, your system stays the same. You need protection, so you create a body, what we see like a meteorite. Objects hit, they're embedded in this material. Interesting is, the data tells us this material is made, looks like nickel. And nickel at a high level radiation transfer of energy creates a green light when it's a magnetic field. So now we know why we see the green light with this object, why we see it the way as it is. The center is where action takes place. The rotation of the material is here. The UFO sits inside. When this material, when this object enters the Earth atmosphere, we will lose 100% this structure. This will go away. And what we will see is the UFO. According to what we have, if there is a plan in this structure to meet with humanity, they're on their way. The bigger structure we see, which is coming, they call it R2 or 3, this one is coming from dimension of the old structure systems, which is the spherical system, extremely long and extremely accessible to its own position. Again, looks like a rock because, again, the actual structure sits inside. If, and most probably it is no if, it's a reality, we are destined to have the first encounter with what you call aliens. Maybe for the first time we do. All the signs of the scientific data we have indicate so. How do we communicate? How do we reach them and how do they reach us? And what is the next step in this process? We have shown how to build the structure around this. You saw this, but you never understood. You were puzzled when we put the star formation in Beijing and we collected the materials in public, you saw. In reality, this is a UFO. And in essence, this is what sits in one system in one of these. How they create this material around it and the shape of UFO is what the humanity needs to learn. In the next few minutes, we'll show you a video and you get a good grasp of what it is. Then we show you a second video that you understand how structured outer fields are made. Because you've seen it, you've done it, and everything else. And then the papers which you all have seen, we shown it in public, confirms why these things have amino acid. They have a structure of life. I go back to the beginning of the talk, and you will understand step by step what was to come, what is to come, and what the knowledge, we'll call it Keshe team's research, is developing, that you will understand. In Beijing, if you remember, in the 3 days production of material, we had star formation. You saw materials on the table, which were put in hundreds of spoons and given to all of you. But in a video we show you, which was taken by the Chinese military in July of 2023 in northern China, in the gold mine section, we showed, video recording will show you during the session today, that when the systems you saw in Beijing, some of it came from the test of the year before, 2 years before, in north of China. And another one came from the Qingdao demonstration for Chinese government, militaries, and the rest. When we have these systems, as you saw in Beijing, materials don't come here. Materials fall in here. In the video you'll see, and you hear the sound of Chinese generals in the background, and you hear the voice of Wang Lin, and others we have released before, you will see exactly what happens. How these materials and how the shape of the UFO is made, there is no aircraft manufacturing. Aircraft manufacturing is the job of the man. The world of space, those who will come to encounter, hopefully, don't have factories to build the 9-10 kilometer spaceship. You can imagine you need giant men to do it. It's actually done by a smaller reactor than what we showed. All you do, you position your reactors, and by changing the strength or distancing the position, they give you the UFO shape. First is of the fields. When you confirm this is a field and the size of the craft we need, then you change to the second level, which you lot saw in Beijing. Now we change the dimension of the systems into material size. So now the material will rain from all over according to the field, and with the dynamic structure of the field inside makes the shape of the UFO. This is how these systems are manufactured. This is how these systems are developed. And then now we have the UFO, which is center of one of these stones, which is coming. We see it, they call it like a meteorite, but it has all the intelligence. Now you change again the parameters. You add the third parameter, which allows you to rain material. Any structure you like. On Earth, bound magnetic field, metal of the sun, which is the pulling point of our system, we need iron. And this iron has a very specific characteristics that at 56 in iron or 56 in nickel, both this needs radiation level. This is a metal. And this N56, is as a metal, but N56, which this system is carrying, heading towards the sun, creates a gravitational magnetic field in the dynamic condition of the center of the sun. It's not burning any fuel. This magnetic field created, and the material around it is getting pulled by the magnetic gravitational field of the sun. And they tell us it's traveling with the highest speed. Yes, because all it does, the individual or the soul or whatever in charge is just playing to create the dynamic fields of the iron. On nickel strength, what they call 56. So now we know why it's green, and we know why it's heading towards the sun. And as it approaches to the center of the solar system, they're changing. The speed changes continuously. In a way, they entered the solar system, they gathered that way, they change position, and the step shows to what we understand this system is heading for Earth. The big dentation we've seen on the surface of it, we can create. I'll show you how, because I've seen it, you know exactly what it is. And I'll show you some other materials which, in a way, you lot have seen before. I'll come back to this picture. Rick, if you can take a picture of this and then bring it back up, that we don't lose it, then we can, what do you call it? Let me just increase it. If you take a screenshot of this, that we can bring it back up later on. Is it okay?
Yeah, just bear with me a second here while I get things lined up. And
if you want to do it this way, it's easier for you.
Okay, I got what you have there.
Okay. So now, how you see this material here and how is material there is what you as knowledge seekers have seen for. In a way, if you look at it, I go back on a few pictures that you knowledge seekers, let me see what I want to show you and how I want to show you. Let's see, play the game in a different way. And we go at. If you look at this picture, I have to stop the sharing this one and go back on it again. Let me see, where is the picture? The way I wanted it. We're going to you've seen this before. Cropped. I have to turn it. I'm trying to turn this image. 1 second. Okay. This image now is correct. I can share with you in the Zoom. When you look at this picture, you know exactly how we go, where we go, and what is supposed to be. We showed you in the structure before that how they build this structure. When you create the right magnetic field, when you create the right structures in the process of the system, you can literally build anything around you. You create material, you create dust, you create curvatures, you can create a shape and patterns, and I like to do it. I'm sorry about this. I'm just trying to change the sequences. You get the right combination. Okay, now we come to this. This picture you all have seen, we published it before. We have produced this material, 3 different materials. It was done in China in 2023, July 2023, and repeated again. And the second time, 2024, and the 4th time, you are knowledge seekers saw it in Beijing. So this is the material the way produced. Now remember that UFO I showed you, you create a dimension of the material. Now these materials rain upon you and stay on it. They make an outer structure. Now we show you how the structure is made. Then what we do, as you've seen, this is a structure. This is literally gold as a plate getting developed. So now that you created that material, you rain the fields in, you see the dots of gold, and you see the gold in that, inside carbon-14. So we've seen the dust, we've seen how the material is made. What is interesting, you see more material. So you can produce different materials according to what you need. This is the pile of the material which is on the table. As I explained, if you create a dynamic system in air, this material would stick on the dynamic structure of the fields and become the solid body of your aircraft. It doesn't fall on the floor. Now, let's go one step further. You can see here, we can shape the material. You see the structure? You can shape it. I'm waiting for your pictures to change because you have one picture behind me. Okay, you're there. You see this material has a shape, but look at the bottom picture. You see the different material shape. And now you can see. This is a very interesting part. This picture you never seen. And it's for the first time we show. If you look at it, it looks like a salt. It's a solid structure. But this structure is mono material and creates like a hill, like a horn out on its own on the surface during the process of production, like these do. You have a delay on you not seeing this. What is interesting, you see this white material. Rick has a video. We show it to you, and then you see how material is made on this meteorite-looking UFO, which is coming to us. Rick, would you like to play the video? This is from one of the productions of materials. And you see how it just builds up. It's a recording of one of them. Just builds up out of nowhere. We have a number of videos like this. So building material in a structure is not difficult. Now we know what these systems, especially 3I, has built this structure, why it looks the way it does. But inside sits a UFO. Inside of it sits a very familiar system that now what you see, for sure, 100%, not even 99%. This is the system inside these two meteorites. It carries a star formation of this, and because it has a fourth dimension to it, creates its own emotion. But the interesting is, if you go back to what we saw in Virgin, you see something very interesting. As I said, this is like the gold made, and you see the spots and dots of gold. You are behind me. Somehow I cannot. Okay, you are back here with me. As you see, material is made. The dust coming around it gives it that roughish look that you see. And you saw the reactor produces it. But interesting point with this is this data. NASA scientist and the other scientist tells us that this object, especially 3I, has amino acid. This data is 11th November 2023, done by the Chinese military. This is the material they took from their test in northern China. They test to see what's the composition of it. And as you see, it's Chinese. It's got on the corner bottom side, seal of a stamp, which is official. And what is interesting is this. Have a look. It has everything. Copper, zinc, iron, selenium, nickel, magnesium. Everything is in it. The most beautiful part of it is, in every piece more or less where you look, you see oxygen, SNO2, ZNO, CuO, FeO. And what is more interesting is this data. Gold, carbon 14. And the most important part is now we know this system on its process creates systematically materials of life. It produces in the shape of itself, if you look at it, the cornerstones of life on Earth. It has entered atmospheric condition of the solar system and it mutates to it. It picks up its intelligence, it picks up its language, it picks up its knowledge, and at the same time it carries the knowledge of the universe. It is extremely intelligent because it has access to not only the knowledge of the man, it can converse in our language and knows what we think, but it has access to the knowledge of universe. It knows where it came from. And for sure, the technology carried by this system is at intelligent level of us and higher. The only way our governments or citizens of Earth will be able in one way or another to communicate with these structures is if they decide to copy us. If they decide to approach us. And we have seen in the past few days, for 17 minutes, the system disappeared off the radar of the whole screen, shots across the universe, solar system, and the rest of it. There is a reason that this craft carries a 17-minute cycle. We know this because in one of the tests we did with you, we used the what we call fraction of it because it was more applicable And we done the same 17 minutes before. It's recorded on our data. The 17 seconds and the 17th minute creates emotion. So these people, whoever they are, they're learning about the emotion of man. How we feel, how we think, and how everything about us. We see a geometrical, emotional system. So replication of making with what we see on the table, human-like, human intelligence, is absolutely no problem for this. The question which is to be answered is why now? Why at this moment? And why humanity? And as we've seen with the following satellites, which is following the 3I, which is a large number of them, has been blocked by a lot of nations not to create panic, all carry the same intelligence and all follow the same route and the structure. It is good to say the teaching has brought man to become part of the universal community, to understand it and be ready to become part of it. But as I said before, the knowledge humanity carries now is one step ahead of this system. Go back to the teaching of the past few weeks and months. If you recall, I said if they are carrying or travel in UFOs, there is still behind the intelligence of transmutation. And that knowledge has been given to the man. I said to a scientist in the past few days, are they here to learn how to transmute? Because they know how for sure to transport. All the dents and all the bits we see on the surface of these objects, the shape of it, if you just look at the shape we are looking at, they're feeding us with, is very much a UFO inside, elongated UFO. And it's one of those long, short flight systems. And it has reduced the speed as has entered what we call the solar system. And the giant one, which has come from that is has characteristics of the mother, the main ship. It's very possible, extremely possible, that the two are from two different parts of the universe or this galaxy, and as part of what we call like Universal Council, there's a meeting to sort out human race. As I said, we are here to take man to become part of the universal community. And to this level, I have taught you enough to be ready for that. To understand the knowledge and not be baffled why they are and how they are. And how they travel at these kind of speeds. These systems outside solar system travel with much higher speed. That's why we never observed them from the point where they came. They became visualized to us as they reduced the speed to enter the solar system. Otherwise, they would have flown through it. The direction of the fields of especially 3i shows moving towards direction of the center and separation of what we saw the second split, they're going to be third split, is that they're sending satellites, they're sending same objects as themselves in a smaller way, in a way subsystems, most probably to land on the planetary system. We should see more breakup, as they call it, but they don't understand these are, again, UFOs covered in the same, they behave the same. Follow this material, follow how a lot of information suddenly has become scarce because governments are scared of what is coming in. It's a swamp of them. It's not 3i anymore. It's 3i and a few hundred 3i babies behind it. The purpose is very clear, but we understand and acknowledge it. And at this moment of time, we have the technology to communicate and their strength to convert it to the language of the man. Systems are getting built for this purpose. And so, what is interesting for you as knowledge seekers is that with you having this knowledge, with you understanding what is on the table, are you ready to meet your family? Are our governments ready to meet our family? When these people land, when people come, they'll ask for one person only, which is trusted and is placed by them, through them, on this planet. And that person will become the spokesman between the universal community and the human race. Obligation of obedience comes out of respect, not out of fear. And they will rule through emotional understanding with a physical presence. Where, as knowledge seekers, you've been taught how to command the emotion through the soul. So, human race is centuries ahead of these people. They're still depending on aircrafts, and many of you have transmuted. My hope is that humanity understands this. My hope is that humanity will have the knowledge to understand this. And are we able to handle this? Are our governments ready to handle this? We have seen these structures jamming computers, electronic systems. We have seen these people disappearing themselves, which we know how it's done. We've seen these people traveling at the speeds beyond what we know. And we need to understand that we are ready. The human race has no choice. But with this cycle, if they decide to meet the man of the universe, this time we are not looking how the pyramids made, we are not looking how structures are made, we are not looking anything else. They are looking how humanity has accessed the knowledge of transmutation. This time, they are knowledge seekers, where, by what I showed you, with the production of gold, with the systems in China, and many others which you have tested, they pass the dimension of physicality. They want to know how you knowledge seekers transmute and what is needed. You are the darlings of the space at this moment of time. And by law of the universe, this is not the Robin Hood time, and this is not the Queen Victoria time to steal and become good. They work on the ether of thou shalt not steal. And this time, humanity has the knowledge and upper hand in being the teachers. The only thing we don't have is to be men of peace. And interesting enough, if you as knowledge seekers understand what knowledge has been shared with you, you are decades ahead. You are decades ahead. You are centuries ahead. And now what I told you, and I keep on telling you and repeat myself, we have taught mankind transmutation. In the essence of the emotion of the energy. And in that process, we have learned a lot. These structures, even though UFO looking, once they enter the atmosphere of the Earth, when they enter the atmosphere of the Moon, Mars, and our scientists be able to follow them, they will see what you've seen UFO. Up to now, we always considered UFOs. Now your knowledge has extended that these people put a space jacket on their system, travel like meteorites. This is one of the reasons the world of science has never been managed to see them. We always considered that in the far distance, they're much to do with us, very small, and they pass. They look like a rock. But this time it's not. What has concerned me is why 3i is holding its cylindrical shape. And why has not opened up into a spherical shape. It's traveling higher speed. It needs to, if you remember, book number 2 is in the highest speed travel. That's why it's doing it. Doesn't need a broad shape. And when it reaches Earth, will go into the spherical shape. It will take its shape and it will change its shape to this configuration that we are used to as UFOs. And we are going to watch this. We are going to monitor this. That how especially 3I, which is equipped to land in atmospheric condition. The other one, the Swan, is not and cannot land, is too big to land on any surface. It's a spaceship carrier, it's a mothership. And the Swan is what you call one of his proteges, one of the children of it. And we expect the two to meet somewhere. They say they meet behind the sun that we cannot see them. If they came this far, they're not scared of you seeing them anyway. And or are they going into the Earth atmosphere, rendezvous, they meet in the solar system atmosphere, rendezvous, and they go, or is there a plan to land on Earth? The speed has been reduced. The especially 3I reacts to intelligence, reacts to communication, and as it's a dynamic system, carries gravitational magnetic field and it has the ability to produce amino acid. It has the ability to create your neighbor without you knowing. Next few weeks will be interesting how the governments will look at this, how we as knowledge seekers understand this, and how, for the first time, we have seen a UFO which is going right through us. To what we understand from the knowledge we have, these systems should not convert. They are on a track, rendezvous, leaving the solar system, maybe releasing a couple of smaller systems to land on Earth or Moon to explore, but there is a bigger job with them. There's two or three reasons we see this, but possibly they land, is that the trajectory and the dimension is going out towards another galaxy. It's just like refueling, it's like exchanging something. And they're not scared of us. They don't need to go to the back of the moon to change clothes. They're the beach lovers, they do everything in front of the sun. And the interesting thing for us is how this technology, which we understand, is a puzzle to the world of science, and we still see opposition that our technology is something they don't understand. Because if you understand our technology, you understand the system. All of you do because you've done it, you've made it, you've seen it. Some of you are part of this development. It's not me saying so anymore. And it's not just because we think so. You saw the production of the materials opening for 3 days in Beijing. If I would have brought a different combination of set of fields, these particles would have been floating, they wouldn't land. And because of the dynamic fields, they would have floated at a given orbit, like the ring of Saturn, and you would have seen the structure. So be ready for a lot of surprises. Be ready for a lot of changes. Be ready that possibly for the first time, mankind will come face to face, directly, with the system of the universe. We'll see them as the passengers of these ships. We might feel their existence, but for sure, these these systems are there to bring a new change to us. But with what you know as human race, they're here to pick up your brain, the emotion of transmutation. If they had it, they wouldn't travel in these old grotty systems. To you looks at us, and to our NASA and American scientists and Chinese, is something unbelievable. But we always told you can travel with the speed of light. This guy is not matched it yet. Is trying to do 60,000 kilometers per second. He's trying to go faster because you could have gone faster, wouldn't have seen him. You would have been lighting through. So we are. If you come to it, we'll meet men of space. Not much more intelligent than man, but they have managed to understand the system and build it. But now they're after your brain, how to transmute. And that's their problem. Up to now, you've been the following. Now you have followers. But you have to understand how to transmute. And hopefully, in the coming time, you will see. We have chosen a video taken in July of 2023, which shows a raining of gold from the space. And this is videos with Chinese military, Chinese generals, all being part of this test. And the reason we will show this video is getting exported to REC, that you will see is not a fairy tale, but me tell you, you just need to create a dynamic field of the dome. And the material will go by the magnetic field strength, will not convert to material. Most always show on itself on the silver color, because it's the characteristics of that, what it shines by. And you were too busy watching what material goes on the spoons in Beijing, but we were invited at night to the position by the military. We had to drive 60, 70 kilometers to get to the position. As they call us, they said it's raining gold everywhere. And we went there, you hear the voice of Anglin and Chinese officers to see how does it feel to rain gold from the skies. Once Rick receives this video, it's about 5 or 8 minutes, 10 minutes. We'll let you see it. And then you understand that if you add a balloon of the fields in the center of this rain, you will make the UFOs. And if you add a second dimension of fields, as you saw copper, zinc, and nickel, and everything else, you will produce it as an outer shape. In a way, you hide yourself inside. And what is interesting is how this material rotates. I'll explain to you somewhere in the future why this material rotates in the dimension of physicality which is going, and why its other partner is actually moving in a different shape, different size, and they have a rendezvous. Would we see transfer of light objects from one to another? Would we see amalgamation of the two, that one enters, the other one lands inside? Or would we see them crossing each other, two ships in the oceans? Either way, whatever happens, the fundamental knowledge of this technology is in the hand of the humanity. We understand it. We have offered the Chinese government, military this morning, if they want to do, or we shift it back to United States, to NASA, to collaborate to bring these systems and other agencies like the Union Space Agency to be able to communicate, to replicate, and the rest of it. What we showed was impossible, now it's been seen. Now the knowledge has to be understood, and the Keshe Foundation knowledge seekers have the knowledge. No need for rocket propulsion, as the gravitational magnetic field of the sun, if you match it, pulls you, you don't need to burn it. And we see it now. They tell us more. Governments are scared of what they are observing. Government are censoring a lot of things which is coming with the system. What is their main concern? They tell us, they said initially that it could be because of the proximity of the two, what we call solar systems, and the rush of meteorites, as we explained before, now it's been accepted. Or it is, as we see it, for the first time encountering another intelligent, another life. It can change. It has amino acid combination from its structure. It has intelligence because it changes position, continuously reacts. Is an interactive system, and you can only be interactive if you have intelligence and life within you. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm right. And maybe if they decide, we'll have the pleasure of meeting one of us as created things of the Creator on this planet, which we didn't know. A bigger family, bigger structure. All depends how much more this I3 or 3I will release more to land. But what is interesting is how they disappear. There is a reason for 17 minutes. We know that fully. It has been tested in our systems, and we have tested what we call 17-second phenomena with a specific reason. The reason for it is what we call, we wanted to understand how this factor of 17 affects us. A factor of 17 works in our system, and is factor of 17 how it affects our position. There is a reason we use this 17 figure, because they have to tell you the test for the 17 was done on the 6th of May. We did a test. I show you, because we are very straightforward with a lot of things we do with you. It says, for you to understand, and one day I explain why. I try to bring it for you. This is a communication, internal communication within a Keshe Foundation research team. And we understand the reason for this. Why scientists are seeing 17-minute pulses, and why this is important to a lot of our work, because 17 has a significant scientific reason. And what this does to a lot of you, it has a psychological effect, and it has a specific characteristics on the body of the man. And it does a lot of things which brings a lot of emotion into play. And I have cleaned some things out that you cannot see because it's an internal research data. And I show you how, what the world of science is looking for, what it means, these 17-minute gaps, and what it does, the purpose of it. When I saw the report of NASA and this 17-minute gap, I said, this cargo carries life, because this is the characteristics. It's part of our knowledge. This is one of the communications of the Keshe. During a test, he says, keep that. Now add this to physicality in 5 minutes with the same and plus 17 gap. And you see the graphs. And you can see. It's done. For those of you who understand this, for those of you who understand the process of you as knowledge seekers, is that we are dealing with a living entity above us, from another planet, from another place in the universe where we understand their technology. We understand, and we are far ahead in every aspect of their knowledge. And unfortunately, our governments prefer to ignore it because ignorance is a bliss. My feeling is that this structure is not hostile, but curious to know how he can interact with humanity. If it was hostile, it would have made a different move. It would have used a different gap. It would have used different configuration. It looks like homeless, or it looks like for someone running to see the mom. And it carries the characteristic of curiosity, kill the cat, because it's releasing little babies to learn and enjoy. It's just like going on an excursion and everybody gets off the boat, you can go and come back with the mini boats, get off the ship. I hope we have achieved, and I hope humanity is ready for this to come, and I hope we'll be peaceful enough to meet our fellow people of the universe and move into the next level. Not only we are hungry for this, but we are hungry for peace. And is the appearance of this a coincidental with what's happening in the human race? And are we ready to accept the change? Rick, have you received the second video? Have you managed to download it?
You see, I'm just checking here. I haven't received a new video yet.
Okay. Tell me 10 minutes. Hopefully after the break we can have a look at it. This video is important because it shows how we pull materials, and if we add the additional system inside, we can create the dynamic field of the space gap, structure material production. And this is one of the characteristics of this system. And the material, the behavior, the change of course step by step, it shows if this system does not land, we cannot land on Earth, it's impossibility, it's too big. It will affect all of us if it does. And the magnetical gravitational field bringing it into upper atmosphere will damage all our communication system. Possibly, if we come to an interface, will be through smaller spaceships, smaller units, as we've seen already divided. The scientists don't understand it. There are pictures on the internet, you can see the split. There's actually a UFO inside the small system. It's just like coming off it. They will land with us because they can pass through. We might see some damages, some of the satellites, because of their going through the system. And having some 15,000 satellites orbiting around the Earth is not easy to go through without interacting with something. And if he does, if he happens, then we see the new cycle. Most probably we'll see them in the northern, what we call northern hemisphere and the North Pole, and in the southern hemisphere and the South Pole, because there's less of what we call satellite interference. This is why, they say they see a lot of what they call UFOs in Argentina and the other parts in southern poles, or the interaction in northern poles, because of the field, strong magnetic fields, and secondly, now this is mainly satellites. There's less obstacle in the poles. We see what comes up, but the knowledge of it And the understanding of the knowledge is all in our hand. Is how our governments will build and how our governments will react to this amazing interaction between the man and the man of space. And I don't think we'll see a human face, but I'm sure we'll see a face of the universal community members. We go for a break, we come back, and hopefully in the second half, Rick will have the video to show you how it rains and how when we add a system inside, will allow us to create that elusive silverish goldish color which we call UFO. And now for the first time you understand UFOs don't travel with a bare skin in the space, but they travel the way we see with both of these universal units and the children which is behind them. We go for a break and we come back, and hopefully we'll learn a little bit more. Rick, have you seen the video yet?
Yes.
Can you show it and then I explain it? You can keep the voice going. You've seen this system in Vienna. If you reduce the voice slightly, this was done in July 2023. 3 Chinese generals by the order of Central Command spent a week in northern China. We have pictures of these military people, so we are not talking. And interesting is at the end, and then what I explained to you at the beginning of the teaching. This is taken about 9 o'clock at night, where we were told to go back because the system has been running for 24 hours to see what is done. You see there are a lot of lights above. You've seen this system, as I said, in Beijing. We are not showing something I haven't seen. And you hear the army officers, the voice of Wang Lin, and other things which are happening. But the end is there. What I put this up is for you to see is the very last 2 or 3 minutes when it thinks the material rains, and if you create a field, you create a jacket as we've seen on I3. This technology is obsolete. So that's why we showed it in Beijing. This is about maybe 5 or 10 meters, maybe less, maybe more, from a drill hole by the 14,000 drill holes done by the Chinese military in this mountain, confirming it's a gold area. That's why the test was done here. We ran a system in the garden of the house next door and one inside. This house was empty, taken over by military for this test over the gold mine. You see there's a plate with the water. This confirmed to us how the gold changes in the body of the man in the salt of the body. Just watch. The most important about these last 3 minutes. You've seen this, that time this was confidential, we didn't show. You see the mirror on the left hand side. Can any of you guys stay here for a week, 10 days?
问你们有没有任何人能在这儿再待一个星期或者多长时间
Can you stay a week, 10 days?
No, more things. I want, but
You don't visit them inside, so you can come to their home.
You see the gold on the edge of the system, as you see in imaging, and you see gold on the mirror. We have a video of it on the mirror, which creates that effect of the body structure. And there were 4 or 5 videos running at the same time, different angles on this recording. So this is one of the videos, but the interesting part, you understand, is the end. As they say, this is the first day. This is a 7-day trial in the mountains north of China, one of the large gold mines of Chinese government. You see gold dust on the floor. You see gold everywhere. It's not just on the papers. Now the system will switch off, the light switch off, and it's where the exciting part starts. And then you see how material falls. It rains in, and if you create a field in those systems, you hold the material at the boundary of the fields. And that's how UFOs are created. Not in the factories and putting pieces of aluminum and metal together. That's the job of the man. As you see, there are 3-4 cameras running, army officers. There are no civilians here. And the data sheet I showed you, the laboratory tests from this one. The reason we are here is the first night we're here is because the officers reported the gold is raining everywhere, outside, inside, and everything else. So we had to drive back up to see what's going on and what is getting reported. Yes, I've seen it. That's what I came here for. I observed the whole reason I came here to observe that. Can you put there like on this? Starting my back study every quarter and a half. Where's our smoker?
Oh, yeah.
Smoke. You see all the Chinese officers that smoke, 99% of them, so it was easy to ask who's the smoker. And then you see the result when you see the material rains from the sky. Watch what's coming up now. Watch is gold dust. You see the dust? You see it now? And in this area, it's raining gold.
Does that dust form a particular structure or shape like a
lands on the floor.
toroid.
If we create a field in the system, it'll take shape of a UFO. Yeah, you need a second field.
Do the particles keep sort of recirculating, or do they fall to the floor?
They
As soon
fall
as...
to the floor. They fall to the floor.
Okay.
Now look, you see now we see it very clearly in the smoke. There is no wind. There is no air circulation. There's just material coming in. Now you see the dust, the gold particles. These are material. Gold is irrelevant. Don't forget, the officers in this room all wearing masks because they could not keep on inhaling gold. So the material comes in because of the system, and if you create a second field, you can hold them at a distance, like ring of Saturn, and that gives this three-dimensional structure of the body, of the craft. If you create a third field, then you get this, what we see on this I3 and what we see on the R2. Here sits the craft. The green line is the shape of the aircraft, and the top is the meteorite material we observe. Now you see the particles flying in, literally convert plasma into matter. But you've seen this in the daylight collected in Beijing. Now you see it in a physical dimension. Is it finished?
Yes, I was just playing back some of the frames. Do you want me to replay it or anything, or?
Oh, it's just for you lot to see how material is produced. It rains. With the field you decide in the middle, decide what it rains.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Keshe. There's a hand up with Ed, but before we begin that, I'd like to comment or ask a couple of questions regarding the 3I that you introduced us to today. Just let me get up there's a Wikipedia image that I was showing earlier. First of all, we have this image of the brightness of its coma due to the gas molecules, apparently. And that was somewhat interesting. But the part I wanted to bring up right now is the image that we're looking at here, is the top view of the trajectory of the 3I Atlas through the solar system. Now, I thought it was very, very peculiar because, first of all, this being a top view, and the Earth and all the planets are basically on the same plane. They call it the elliptic plane. And the chances of this 3I Atlas object actually coming through on this trajectory at the same elliptic plane as all of the objects in our solar system, even though it's known it doesn't come from our solar system, but it's on that same plane, the chances are 1 in 500 that it would be able to do that, they say. And so it's very, very particular to be on that elliptic plane to start with. And it comes from beyond Jupiter here, and as we'll see in just a minute, and we'll see it start now down below. And it comes up, it comes very, very close to Mars, like about as close as you can get without hitting it in a way, right there. Has a look at Venus, a little bit of a look at Earth, but look how close it comes to Jupiter. It goes right beside Jupiter, like, hello, mama, I'm back again, or something. And you were saying, Mr. Keshe, that this entity seems to be, did you say something was coming back to its source, or getting, as Antonio says, is it going near the sun to energize itself as it travels?
Can you freeze this picture?
I'm not sure. Let's see.
Take a picture of it and freeze
Whoops. I tried to freeze it, but it
Reduce
just amplified it. Let me try it again here.
Just take a screenshot of it.
I think I have to refresh just a minute. Okay, so I can take a screenshot.
Again, this is the illusion of our present science. When you look at this picture, it's this is how they have made these pictures, and it's not correct, because tell me when you can screenshot it, or I can write something on it.
Okay, let me put up the screenshot.
Let me see if oh yeah, doesn't matter. Let it run. I can do it without it. It's okay.
Okay.
Don't screenshot it. Something which you have to understand: a lot of these pictures we watch is done for the convenience of their passing the information. It's not real. This object here you see flies like this. Does not go on this orbital they show. Secondly, it has, if you look at it, a third dimension, which is going in like this. So these pictures we look at is for conventional understanding. But the circular motion is not. Secondly, it flows up and down in the what do you call it, atmosphere of the solar system. When they give us these details, so such a thing, such a closeness, it's not exactly what they're talking about. They tell us it passes very close, but this gap of Mars here is different than this gap of Mars from the sun. We all do. The sun does exactly the same. The Earth does exactly the same. They made these pictures for convenience, but then you have to understand you're dealing with a three-dimensional structure, and this thing is cutting through it. They say it comes very close, it'll be there, but you just watch and see how this thing reacts when it comes to past Earth. And there is a discussion which I try to bring out, is that if you look at where the Earth is, yeah, you see about the Earth about there. Has a satellite been released to touch with Earth and join back in? Are we there for an encounter? There's another possibility which we don't see. Sometimes Earth is here by the time this crosses and the R2 comes here. There's a rendezvous point. Again, three-dimensional. There are millions of miles, hundreds of thousands of miles away from each other. do we see a transfer across? Because the speed is so high. The most important thing is, would there be reduction in the speed at this rendezvous point? Would it come to a halt? And both will transfer material to each other. It's like you got a, what do you call it, a craft carrier and a cruiser next to each other, changing officers. This, what we see with these two, is not coincidental. For sure, it's not coincidental. We've seen 3i changing course, we've seen changing 3i changing speed, we've seen it vanishing, we've seen it coming back, we've seen playing all sorts of games. It's intelligent, it's on a mission. And when you have such a system, if you go back to some of the teachings I refer to, you don't change course. Everything before you travel is calculated. Every star, every planet, you have to go through a solar system. Where do you go? Every trajectory is calculated, adjusted, and they adjust. And this system is adjusting itself too many times. It has intelligence. It has fingerprint of amino acid of life. This is what is scaring the hell out of people in NASA. Which means it carries a living intelligence inside it. And this trajectory, where would it meet with R2D2, I call it for joke. Where is the rendezvous? And they say it's behind us, we will not see where. But what's the purpose of it? Would one come on this side and deliver to the planetary system? Don't forget, we are not the only exciting part, because we are just humans on it. They're interested in other phenomenons like the moons of the Saturn and every other thing, because when you go on an excursion, you try to see as much as possible. But the speed we see, the shape we see, is all in line with the, what we call the knowledge we have in the Keshe and we can replicate it. And it's gathering, and at the speed it goes, it gets hit. When I look at some of the pictures coming out of NASA regarding the possible shape of these two objects, they've been hit by as many meteorites because they carry that structure. And they get hit by everything. But this is the first time we see a UFO with the clothes or cover of a galaxy, not with the clothes of what we call atmosphere of the planet. This is how they travel. We got to get used to it. Because it gives protection. With the meteorites, it gives protection. It does not matter how many layers you add, multiple layering. This system, 3i, cannot be from a very advanced, intelligent people compared to the rest of the knowledge in the universe. The behavior looks like a newcomer's. Because the more advanced systems, which is the more in advanced, what you call it, life, uses a slightly different or more advanced system than this. This is like, you remember when the man wore the first suit going into the deep sea, the metal hood and everything else? This is like this. That's why I know I've seen this many times. Wearing that jacket of space, because the new versions or more advanced systems of the universe use a totally different space technology. They use a multi-layering. They don't use a jacket. This jacket, hey, it is a intelligent, advanced intelligent, but traveling with a donkey. This is not the Rolls Royce. This is not the jumbo jet. And even that is puzzling humanity, because we are still walking. We haven't even managed to learn to walk. Has no nuclear system. Does not work on nuclear system at all. Has no nuclear center. I hear, oh, high temperature nuclear material. I just go crazy. Do we have any nuclear material in our system and produce gold? So this is not a very advanced culture, but it's a culture who has managed to, and most probably we know them. It's known to us who was in it. It's very easy to confirm. And something very interesting is, you see, we see reports of the green trail or light in front of, and there's a possibility that these people bear shiny green skin of intelligence life. Very possible. They have moved into a different dimension of the intelligence, and so they're traveling. They're traveling across the galaxy, and their protection is to add up some jackets. And the R2 definitely shows that kind of characteristics. It's very intelligent. The R2 is extreme, slow, what I call nomad structure. They're in space for billions of years. But the 3i shows advanced knowledge, but it's still old systems. It's like somebody taking a 1950s Chevy and going around the world trip. But they know what they're doing. The data, which is getting released by different agencies, and I monitor very closely, gives us a very good indication what these people are up to. But you cannot tell, because when we talk, they say, oh, this guy doesn't know what you're talking about, and the rest of it. We know. And it's there. It's very possibly they already landed on Earth somewhere. This is my assumption. So when I saw the split, it's possibly landing, or we landed, and they are on the way in. 99% from what I understand, what I see, and the knowledge we have. One of the indications of it is we have to see the disturbance in the southern pole. We've seen satellite disturbances, blackouts, which means they have entered. That blackout, it means they have already entered the atmosphere. Military satellites, high altitude satellites, all have gone blank in certain government systems.
Mr. Keshe, what do you think about the high nickel content of this object? They say that there's little or no iron associated with the nickel, and it's not, they never found that out in space or in the universe so far, that nickel is almost always found with iron in it.
Doesn't need to, because this is a nickel C56. You don't need to. It covers both. When you get the isotopes in a matter state, which is where just from another material to another element to another, You don't see usually the elements of the mother side. The iron is 56. The isotope of nickel, the lowest we know, is 56. But this is in an energy form. So if it is a nickel 56, which is again, when they tell you it radiates green light, which is a confirmation of it, is behaving as iron. So you don't see iron. It's nickel 56. We know that it's... I'll tell you why I know it and why we produce it. We actually produce this material. We produce it, but our people don't have a clue what they're producing. We have produced, I've seen these elements in the materials we have produced. Because nickel 56 replicates the gravitational magnetic field of iron, which again goes back to oxygen 16, which again goes back replication of carbon 14 to carbon 16. I've spoken about carbon 16 a lot some time ago. And then when you have this, you have the behavior isotopes of deuterium. So when they say they haven't seen, usually they see with iron, yes, because our scientists are so narrow-minded, they don't understand. When you don't see in nickel, especially green, what do you call it, fields we see from this one, because it has created iron 56, nickel 56, which is like iron. You won't see iron because you already have the nickel. It's heading outside, not inside the star. If this was to go through, in its trajectory was supposed to go through center of the solar system to a star, which many or near to it, it will change its composition to a different composition magnetic field. It would have been blackish color, gray silver blackish, and in the beam you would have seen the sign of deuterium. This is the reason the R2 shows us CO2, because that guy is centered to go close to sun. You will see where it lands, how close it will get to the sun. You have to understand the system is a universal system. We never thought about it. I will not teach it because it's not for man's time now. These systems have no physical dimension in their reactors. They are the sun themselves. And I was spoken about this before. It's extremely, extremely powerful old system. It's a single spherical, what you call, flight system. And this is why it has this shape, this is why it does this thing. And then in it has a star formation on the boundary of it, which creates what we see. But this star system is different because there are two ways of making a star system in space. This is for the future, when man becomes mature. I can do it here because it's easier. You have a star system, which most of you know, we have taught, which is like this. Then, when you see a system like R2, this system doesn't stay this way. This system has in its structure another star formation, which is 90 degrees to the others, with the central gravitational point more or less of the same value. So it creates a spherical star formation. And that's what we see with R2. And our new knowledge seekers are not ready for this knowledge. And this characteristics of this combination of C14 has to do. And then because it has a CO2 in combination, it gives us a CO2, traces of CO2, as they say they've never seen, and it's more than anything, because they don't understand the knowledge. The 3I carries this combination in the elliptical, and that's why we see it. This one carries a system unknown. We will not teach it because man is not ready. This is disaster if you show man what to do. It sets in a specific plane in a 90-degree angle separation, which creates the shape of art. Now you know why I don't teach you everything. The original, old flight system used to be one single, and you remember you had little cartoons, we used to see that kind of thing. This combination flight system are very, very advanced. It needs a knowledge of the creation in every shape or form. And within it, they carry hundreds of millions of passengers of all races. This is when I saw this, I'm 99% sure, because I had contact with this race, these people. They're here to interact and take passengers, those who are willing to go. Because the combination of field created amongst these systems, there is a more to it, this is not just what it is, allows a spectrum of the citizens of the universe to live in there with peace. This knowledge is far beyond humanity. Far beyond humanity. It's not even in the direction of the 3 eyes. This is what puzzles me. What's the interaction of these two? Why are they meeting like this? R2's condition, the specification, everything which comes out. I know I've flown around with these systems many times. It's very easy. You understand it, they do, and you understand 3i. 3i is a very old system, but it works. But because of what I showed data from Chinese military, it has in its structure, it creates combination of fields which within the atmospheric condition of the solar system creates life in an amino acid level, because you've seen it, the CO2 I explained, which is produced, carbon 14, then that allows it with the combination of the materials, oxidization of the plasma of the solar system to create material. We are universal teachers, and we have traveled the span of the universe. What bothers me with the R2, these people have access to understanding of the cry, we call it, the shout of the souls. They have some knowledge with it, because I've seen what these people what report, they don't understand what they report, they just give you knowledge, and they feel like we don't understand what it means. This brings a disaster on Earth. They're here to collect something, and I can't see. Are we heading for a nuclear war? Are we heading for the annihilation of the man? That they're here to support, to collect. There's a secret in this, which I think I know 90%, 99% what it is, but I have to stay silent. Is human race for a big shock, and that's why they're here. The 3i does not bother me as much as the swan does. It's a black swan.
Good morning, Mr. Keshe. Mr. Keshe, you said not the 3i, the other one that carries millions. You said they're here to collect. What does it mean? Collect what?
Go back to the teaching of some times ago. In one of the teachings, I explained that universal community usually knows of a disaster and empties planets, solar systems, and gets from life, because they know there is a possibility of annihilation, destruction, change that will not support life. It's just like us collecting animals that they don't exist in the jungles, and in open them we keep them in the zoos. And 2R is one of those. I've been on board of these ships, and they are not prisons. They are facility till somewhere in the universe the race wants a place that is suits for them to move on to. And when I saw the R2, you know, when your heart falls and you can't swallow, I had that feeling. Knowing what is happening with Israel and the Palestine and the Russians, and these systems are aware of this kind of things. Are we about to annihilate ourselves? Are we about to make this planet non-existent or not livable? This is my concern. I've seen these moving, and I know why they move. I understand why they're there. Or is it just passing through? Don't forget, these systems do not need to land. They can transfer. Landing aircrafts and things is a habit of the man.
And so why the 3i's are here? If because 3i's they're trying to make a connection. When you said they speak to
For 2R is too big to be near. Gravitational magnetic field of it will affect the Earth, affect a lot of things, will destroy 99% of all our satellites. We already seen it. 3i created a field a few days ago, And a lot of military satellites were blocked for a few minutes. In the universe, nobody harms. Life is a God-given right, and the intellect of each race has to be kept.
Mr. Keshe, in the, I don't know, these are maybe stories, but I hear in the past, they say something about the from other communities they came and the government captured them, they tortured them, they research them, they dissect them. And
Say whatever they like to say.
but I don't know if this story is true, because if these three eyes come in to try to make contact, and you said they have
They, what we
a specific person they want to talk to, but if they come and the government captures them and bothers them and held them, I don't like that, because I mean,
nobody can capture these people. Don't worry.
okay.
They're more intelligent in that way than you
Because
can.
I
We
rather,
know the intelligence service. We know from the militaries. They have tried to communicate. There are a lot of things in the background which is not in public. There's a lot of effort has been made to communicate.
yeah,
They're not just going through.
okay.
There's a lot of work is going on in the background, especially with the Americans and others are very busy trying to communicate. Very busy. There has a response. There has been a response. And everything is geometrical. Everything is dimension. They don't, because they don't understand. And our people at the top don't understand the structure, how these things work, how it's made.
Yeah, because I
If
rather, if I rather to die or the planet goes away rather than holding other entities from other planets which are peaceful.
this is part of what we have to see what it is. I especially open this topic today because there is a reason you'll understand in the coming time. I don't do things just for the sake of doing it, and I never work on teachings. I had to go prepare things for this teaching, to look for things to be, because those who have the knowledge understand. They know what is the next step. They understand what is the next step. And it works different way. It works totally in different way. And the structure of the world peace and universal peace has to coincide. And the two are not synchronizing.